Hello, welcome to another episode of It Needs to Be Said, two sisters who like to keep it real. We might make you laugh, hopefully we'll make you think. We are back for the final installment of our series with Patricia Weerakoon. And look, I'm not going to lie, I would be happy for her to be a weekly, just to join the sisterhood and be here every week.
Yeah. Take over the podcast, please.
That's right. We're having such a good time. We've explored the beauty of God's design for sex, and we've been honest about the tension and struggle that many of us experience when it comes to sex. Today, we're stepping into the front lines and something that we know a lot of listeners are curious about. We're talking about the home, culture, and the reality that us and our children are constantly being shaped by, and the messages that we receive around us. From social media to playground conversations, identity and sexuality are being formed earlier and louder than ever. Patricia is here to help us move from fear to confidence. Okay, Patricia, so much of what shapes our identity now comes through a screen, and Salome and I are quite passionate about just keeping our kids away from screens as long as humanly possible. You know, I don't know if my baby knows that our TV turns on, which I'm going to keep it like that for a while. But by the time parents think to have the talk, you know, something that kind of we grew up, there was this one talk that you got, it can feel like the conversation has already started without them. You know, are we behind? How do we navigate these cultural shifts with conviction and compassion? Gosh, I don't even know what the question is in there. Is it because it's just
it's a hot mess.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the question is, I'll just give you the answer.
Okay.
When it comes to educating your kids in a culture like it is today, you either disciple your kids in God's good word for sex, gender, body, relationship, whatever it is, you disciple them or the world will.
Wow.
Social media, peer, schools. We can no longer trust schools to be teaching them what is good and pure and true, even scientifically. Parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, church. We need to be talking to our kids about sex, relationships, gender early. And when I mean early, I mean the moment they can talk.
Right.
You know, even before then, you're teaching your children, these are your fingers, these are your toes. That's the time you need to be giving the right words for the genitals. You have a son, he has penis and scrotum, not whatever cutesy word, I don't know, Dick or Harry or Kevin or whatever. Just use the right words. Your daughter has a vulva and a vagina. Please don't go to the clitoris. Even adults haven't found it most of the time. So teach the right words as part of the body God has given you. Talk about God creating male and female, boy, girl. I mean, you know, we have a book called You and Me by the Book, which I didn't even want to write. It's for preschoolers, for you to read, parents to read. Just a picture book that talks about the body as God made it. You can play any way you want. You can do what you want, but you are created good as boy and girl. And so never too early, but it's also never too late.
Wow. Yes. Great.
So if anyone listening, you haven't done it, just do it. You are the one who is embarrassed, not your children.
Yeah.
All the research tells us that adolescents, this is secular research, when we work with adolescents, research tells us that where parents have been the trusted source of sex education, these children put off having sex till later and put off risk-taking behavior, including drugs and alcohol. If the parents or another trusted adult, unfortunately, sometimes parents are not around, so another trusted adult has been that primary source of education in sex and relationship. That's important.
I actually, sorry, Salome, I'm going to actually interrupt you quickly.
That's good. I had another question too. Yeah.
I've been reading through Proverbs 6 and 7, and it's all about warning against the adulteress, you know, and my brain is like a buzz with how much is in here. But one of the things that I love that it talked about is So when it's like a warning against adultery, and we could say they're warning against sexual sin, pornography, abuse, it says, "My son, keep your father's commandment and forsake not your mother's teaching. Bind them on your heart always, tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. When you wake, they will talk with you." And it can be scary, but if you look at it in the right lens, it's so hopeful that the things we teach our kids, it's protective for them. And so to some of my friends that are scared of having these conversations, I say to them, just do it scared. Just do it scared, because it's still worth doing, even if you feel uncomfortable. And then the world that we live in, so Proverbs 7:11 says, this is talking about the woman, right? The prostitute or the wayward woman. It says, "She is loud and wayward. Her feet do not stay at home, now in the street, now in the market, and at every corner she lies in wait." You know, Satan and sexual sin, sexual perversion, it desires to have our children. It's intoxicating, it's alluring, it desires to have them, it's always in wait. And so I think from the moment that you step into this battlefield, you are going into battle on behalf of your children for something that is going to desire to win them over. And so I think it's so encouraging for me, because it makes me go, yes, I want to talk to my kids about this. This equips them in a way that maybe we weren't equipped, or in a way that our culture back then didn't need to be equipped in the same way. So sorry, slow down.
And that tells me, no, I'm just going to touch on that. That tells me as well, like Patricia said, it's not neutral. It's not that if you don't do it, they don't get exposed. It's that either you do it and your teaching is bound around their neck, or the wayward woman's going to do it.
Right.
You know, and so they're going to be exposed. And like you said, Patricia, which voice is going to be in their heads when they think about sex, when they're exposed to it? It's either yours or the wayward woman. So it's a huge responsibility we have to not be reactive with this stuff, but be on the forefront, be thinking about it, be researched about it. And before, you were talking a bit about, I guess, gender, and I'm going to ask you some questions about gender, but switching from, I guess, teaching your children about penis and vagina, like my daughter's 2, she knows what a penis is, it's great. But at what age does it become important to then teach about sex? Is it as simple as, if she asks, you know, where does the baby come from? Do you then start explaining sex, you know, penis in vagina sex, you know?
Okay, that's really important, because there was a time when the same question, I would have said, no, when they are pre-teens, not anymore.
Wow.
Okay.
It's got to be primary school. For those of you who maybe not understand primary school, as you know, we are talking anything from like 5 years old.
Right.
Wow.
That we wrote a set of books called Birds and Bees by the Book, which is a set of books which talks about how, you know, to talk to your children, because unfortunately, children as young as 5 are being exposed to pornography.
Wow.
Not intentionally often, but just accident. I talked to a 8-year-old who said he had a school project about, I don't know, animals. And he thought he wanted some pictures of pretty pussycats.
Oh honey. Oh gosh.
So he ended up with naked girls, and that scared him. He was terrified. Fortunately, he went and talked to his mother and said, "See what I found." And she was able to use that as a teaching moment.
Wow.
So we actually now say, you've got to talk to them at that level of their understanding when they go to primary school, because there are books that are being read to them in primary school, which talks about all sorts of sexual behaviors. You go to the public library, I'm in Sydney, go to a public library, there are sex books in the children's section. So we need to get in there. Now, you mentioned, should we wait till they ask? Now, we talk of being proactive and reactive. Proactive is where what I just talked about. You have to get in there before the voices of the world. Second is, you also need to be ready to answer the questions. So when a child comes to you with a question, and if I'm quick tangent, I'll give you a little story which actually happened. I had this older gentleman who had been to one of my parenting talks. He came to me, I think I was doing a church discussion on marriage or something. And he said, you know, he was in the shed and his grandson came to him and said, Poppy, Australian, Poppy, what's couple sex? So he thought, whoops, Dr. Pat said that grandparents have a role. So he explained everything. And
Right.
then he asks the little boy, why did you ask, darling? And he said, nah, Nana, grandma, said that lunch will be ready in couple sex. So, I mean, whereas it was nice that he taught the grandson everything, I tell people, if a child comes and says, what's oral sex? Or what's couple sex? Or what's any type of sexual question? Just take the moment to take a deep breath and then say, where did you hear this? What do you know? And then explain.
Okay.
Right.
Because where did you hear it is important. It could be pornography. It could be some abusive situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what do you know? And then explain. So be
That's good.
ready to be reactive, but always be the one who's the proactive about giving them information.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's great. And so switching a bit to the identity, anatomy, gender conversation that you touched on before, I guess this is quite a concerning trend in society, just with how much conversation there are or how much pressure there is on children to even think about their gender. And
Gosh.
I looked up some statistics, and I'm sure there'd be so many different stats, but apparently 1% of American teens identify as trans and 0.9% of Australians as well. So I think that sounds low to me.
It sounds like not much, but it actually is a lot. You know, if you look at the numbers,
1 in 100.
Yeah,
exactly. So how do we help children and even adults navigate questions around gender identity? And I guess I want to put on that question as well, that beyond, I guess, what we're doing in the home, beyond that, there's going to be things they're exposed to in the playground and certain language in the playground. And, you know, I can teach my daughter all about what a boy and a girl looks like, but she might, like the other day we were on a walk and we walked past a trans man and I was instantly like, that's going to be very confusing for her, you know? And even then, like, I never checked in on her with what she thought. I just kind of left it. She didn't ask me anything. But how do we navigate this shifting landscape with the trans movement?
Okay, so I'm going to give you what we have been working on for 3 years, and we have one book out called The Gender Revolution with me and 2 theologians, and we are writing one for teens called Am I Trans, and one for parents on parenting, the gender revolution. So I'm going to give you all that information in
Beautiful.
like 3 minutes.
Okay.
So the important thing is that it's never too early that we need to teach our children, you are created male or female. It doesn't matter what you like to play with.
right.
It doesn't matter even who you are sexually attracted to, feelings, orientation. Your body is good. It's the way God made you, and that is really special. Now, that's something you can teach your preschooler, which is what we have done in our book, You and Me by the Book. Now, like I said, by the time they are going into school, they are going to be taught gender fluidity. They are going to be faced with things like your classmate John is coming back next semester as Jenny. And we want all of you to recognize that he is now a girl. That, of course, is impossible. Nobody changes sex. But the primary school mind is still developing what it means to be a boy or a girl. So unless you have set it and then taught them that, look, you're in school and you're going to be, there may be people who don't understand this. So, you know, if you have John who wants to be now Jenny, which is not possible because God does create people, boy or girl, you don't have to sort of say, you know, you're evil or you're sinful.
Right.
You know, just stay quiet, come home and talk to me.
Right.
And we will talk about it. So teaching them true conviction of God's word, but also teaching them compassion. This is your good friend who's confused. So don't Don't say anything to that person because you'll upset them. You'll upset class. Come and talk to me. Then you have a role to go to the school and say, I'm not happy with my child being forced to address somebody in a way they're not. I want to see the curriculum.
Right.
A parent has a right to go to school. Parents have rights, and parents don't understand this, to find out what the child is being taught. So start early, right? By the time they get to adolescence, really important, body changes. Puberty is good and healthy.
Right.
The trans movement teaches children that you are not what your parents or the doctors said you are. You are whatever you feel you are. Transgender is a disconnect between the body as God created it and biology made it, and the feeling of who you are. So feeling of male, female, something in between, furry, animal, whatever, and the biological reality of who you are. That's what transgender is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, there is nothing called a trans child. There is no one who is born trans. Now, let me just take a step back. And if anyone really wants to, there's a book, The Gender Revolution. I would really strongly recommend it's on Amazon anywhere. And I would recommend that you get that. But I'm going to give you that model we use very briefly. We use a thing called the gender and sex tree, where we talk about your sex as male or female. We are talking biology here, is established in the womb at the moment of conception.
Wow.
Okay, stay with me here. During development in the womb, your genitals are differentiated as male or female depending on whether you have an XY or an XX chromosome. This is simplifying it. It's not just having a Y chromosome, it's the genetics that are behind it.
Sure.
But that's the basis. At birth, there is only a confirmation as male or female, right?
Right.
Determination of male or female happened in the womb at conception, when sperm and ovum came together. Read Psalm 139. You, God, says King David, knit me in my mother's womb. That knitting is the determination. I tell young people, your parents were not knitting. They were having the best sex ever. But at that moment, you know what transgender ideology, and it's an ideology because it's a belief system which has no scientific basis.
Yeah.
And I know there may be people listening who will say, yes, there is, but actually there isn't. And I'll very quickly talk about some of these myths. You're told that sex is assigned at birth, as if it was arbitrary. It's not. It is determined in the womb. So sex is not assigned at birth. Now, I've talked about the myths and the ideology very briefly. In about less than 0.2%, about 0.18%, this development can go haywire, go wrong.
Sure.
Fallen world, everything can go wrong. And you have disorders of sex development called intersex. Intersex is not a third sex, it is male, female, and disorders. That's a myth. Now, after birth, we have puberty. Puberty is good. The transgender ideology expresses it that puberty is optional. You see, if your sex was assigned, then if you're born a female, or you're not born because you're assigned a female at birth, you go through female puberty. But if you decide that, actually I'm not what I was assigned at birth, then you shouldn't force me to go through female puberty.
Right.
I should go have a choice. So the treatment could block puberty, because it may be actually cruel to make a child go through a puberty they don't want. So that's where puberty blockers come in. It is completely dangerous. You don't block a normal, we're just talking science. And then, of course, we can talk theology. God intends us to be the man or woman we are. And you don't block it without consequences. And every statement I'm saying has a huge underlying science behind it. When it comes to sexual, here is another very important thing. The LGBTQIA++ 92 genders confuses sexual orientation, stay with me here, orientation, which is a feeling of attraction towards male, female, both, whatever, and identity,
Right.
which is I am not who my body is. Sexual orientation is dependent on the biology of the body.
Right.
A biological male is attracted to a biological male, that is being gay. A biological female attracted to another female is lesbian. Transgender ideology, this gets really curly, so ask me if you don't understand it.
Great.
Transgender ideology says if a man identifies as a woman, therefore called a trans woman, and now says that he is actually a lesbian, then a biological woman who is a lesbian should agree to have sex with him.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't, then she is a bigot, a transphobe, and has a genital fetish.
Right.
That
Crazy.
is where we are now. And that is why the lesbian, gay, bisexual are saying, we don't want anything to do with transgender. Because we are not trans. We are sexually attracted to each other. And children in school are being taught, if you're a young boy who likes to do girl things, you're a tomboy,
Right.
that's what I was. Or you're a little boy who likes pink and dolls and, I don't know, cooking with mommy. Then a boy who likes doing girl things is actually a girl, and a girl who likes boy things is actually a boy. And schools are doing what we call social transitioning of these children often, and I know in the States this is a big issue of socially transitioning children in early schools, and that is a dangerous thing to do.
It's so
because
scary.
that social transitioning is the first step towards medicalization and surgery. It's a huge topic, but it's somewhere where parents need to take the early step of education, the right that you have to set the truth, but with compassion,
Yes.
conviction with compassion. Love does not mean affirmation
Yeah.
of something that is not based on science. You don't even have to bring the Bible into it.
That's right.
There is science behind it.
Oh,
That's the long answer, which is really something we can go on for 1 hour about.
Oh my gosh, I have so many things to say. Do you have some questions on that?
my brain is just a buzz with I think just the necessity, you know. I think that sometimes we're so scared to talk about this topic because exactly like you said, you can be labeled as every name under the sun, and we probably will be for this episode. And our episode may even get removed, you know, for this exact reason. But there's just such an urgency in my spirit to talk about this because whether you're a Christian or not, whether you're living in secular Australia or the Bible Belt where I live, your kids will be exposed to this. And even one of my girlfriends, her kids go to a lovely school in the middle of Arkansas. It's the middle of America. We are in a conservative state. And in kindergarten, so reception or whatever it's called there's a child in her kindergarten class that is suspected to be trans, right? And so it's just so important to talk about this. And part of a lot of what we're talking about comes back to teach your kids that their body is good, to love their body, because when they're told that their body is bad or they don't like a part of their body, they've got the framework already to go, I love my body. God says it was made good. So even for my son, Patricia, my family's quite short, and so my beautiful son, he's on, you know, the lower end of the scale, and even that, it's been really a good practice for us to tell him God made you good. You can love your height. He made you good. He didn't make a mistake with you. And even that sets the precedence of, even if one day you don't like your body, or you like playing with girl things, or it's okay, you're still good. And so it just sets them up to love themselves. So I don't know, my brain is just like,
And
just happy to talk
really
about it.
important, the ideology says you can be born in the wrong body. You cannot. You are born in the body that was set in the womb. You can't be in the wrong body. You are in the body that you are born in. Two, you're told that you can have a boy brain in a girl body, or a girl brain in a boy's body. No research. People will talk about research, but that's really flawed research. There's really good research that comes out that says there is no underlying boy brain, girl body, girl brain, boy body. There is variations.
Sure.
Now, we do have some research that says, decades of research against same-sex orientation. There is some research about brain science that it could be innate, but not for gender identity.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You spoke a bit about puberty blockers, and I think sometimes when we think about this topic, we think that's so on one end of the spectrum. And I guess what we're being exposed to, like, I'm a teacher, and at the school I work at, they're now working on their gender policy because there's a student who's just switched genders, and surprise, surprise, some of the kids are confused and are getting her gender confused, and it's all the bullying, everything. And so I guess, like, the pronouns is maybe the first exposure that we're getting to, do you conform or do you not? Or do you teach your child to conform, or do you teach them to not? So what would you say about how we teach how do we navigate that, mainly help us as well, but then how do we help our kids to navigate that? Because it seems like engaging in the pronoun discussion, it seems like it's the beginning of the conveyor belt of this movement that ends up potentially being in surgery or puberty blockers.
Okay, again, I'm going to give you a quick response to that. You see, pronouns of he, him, she, her, they, them, Caesar, or if you're furry, kitten self or whatever. The reality is, as you said, it's the beginning. Now, we need to teach our children and ourselves that there are two sides to this. Some people say we need to practice pronoun hospitality, which means you're being kind by using a person's pronoun. There's another side, that's one end. The other end of the spectrum uses what we like to say pronoun hostility, which is, this is terrible. You are evil by wanting to do pronoun. We would take a middle line that says, you need to be careful about using pronouns, because actually using the wrong pronouns on someone is consolidating a lie and a fantasy. And we are called to speak the truth in love.
Right.
And it is not speaking the truth in love to use a false pronoun, because you are consolidating what is not true. So what we recommend is, wherever possible, use a name. We don't really use a pronoun when you are addressing someone. So ask, and even if the name sounds really weird, there are cultures whose names we would hear and we don't know whether it's a girl's name or a boy's name. So use the name rather than the pronoun. That's what we tell people.
That's good.
Secondly, there is a situation where you are asked, or the child is asked, to say, what is your pronoun? Now, we teach children to say, I don't find the need to give my pronoun. I don't do that. I'm a boy, or I'm a girl. That's what my parents told me to say. You know what I'm saying? Give the child permission to say, my parents told me I don't have to use a pronoun. I'm a girl, and that's okay for me. Because you see, the transgender lobby then says if you're not trans, then you're cisgender. Even that's given a label.
Yeah.
If you
right.
actually believe that you are the sex you are, why do I need a label? I'm not a cisgender female. I'm a woman.
That's right. It's so
live in a
nice
world-
to have the scapegoat to giving your kids the scapegoat of my parents
Right.
said. Blame the
My
parent.
parents said. And, if this is, I need to leave this class and call my parents. And allow them to do that.
Wow.
Blame you.
Great.
Because you have taught them. And that doesn't mean you can't be loving.
Yeah.
You love, but you don't go down that path because you don't want your children to go down the path of believing that pronouns are something neutral. They're not, because you're consolidating a lie. And same for us. Use the name.
That's great.
I mean, there may be a time, maybe in church, where somebody comes in and is extremely vulnerable,
Right.
who has transitioned and is vulnerable. There may be a place of saying, look, we don't believe that pronouns are like a healthy thing. But since you are really struggling with this, I would prefer to use your name, but I'll use your preferred pronouns at the beginning. But I want you to understand that this is not what we find healthy. And you talked of schools. Schools are going through a really hard time globally. And we need to be aware of that it's really a hard time.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Patricia. One of the series we have a recurring episode is our Raise Them Well series, where we talk about something to do with raising kids. And our most recent one was on teaching kids discernment in an age of just confusion. And I guess we want to think through how we help our kids to build internal filters instead of just saying, well, no, that's wrong, but just having the filter constantly, which I guess is apologetics. It's teaching your kids to question everything. And I think being clear and equipping your kid with what's true, what does God say, but what do we also say about them? It helps them to just have that reflex of, well, hang on a second, Mum told me that a girl is a girl and a boy is a boy. It just helps them to, I guess, question a little bit in the hope that they do come home and go, well, Lucy was there last week and now Larry's there, and you said, it almost holds us accountable and it helps equip them. So I don't really have a question there. It's just that it's encouraging to know that some of the groundwork that we are laying, it is foundationally important, even if I don't know, it doesn't really matter when they're going to be exposed. They will be exposed, and the earlier you've laid the foundation, the better.
Yeah. And teaching them the science behind it. I mean, even in our children's books of birds and bees by the book, we give a scientific underpinning, because there are 6 books in that. Yeah,
Excellent.
Me and my body, me and my brain, me and my family, and we talk about there being different families, because you see, everyone is created in the image of God.
Right.
So we love our transgender brother or sister,
Yeah.
but it's still a brother, not a brother who's changed into a sister, because nobody can change their sex. And this is a lie that, and children believe the lie that little Larry, who's now Leonie, just because she now comes in a dress, Larry has changed into Leonie. No, it's still Larry in a dress. And we can tell that, but we say, but you love Larry in a dress. Because Larry in a dress is still in the image of God, and God created Larry good. Just because Larry is confused doesn't mean you don't love them. So you love them, and you're a friend, because Larry is going through a hard time, and Larry needs a friend because other people may be harassing or bullying Larry. You can be that friend to Larry, who thinks he's dressed and therefore turned into Leonie. But no, Larry cannot turn into Leonie. So we need to teach them science. And then we have a book, Growing Up by the Book, and Teen Sex. But everyone, you must teach children now science, because thus says the word of God is good. But today's kids, with all the exposure they get, need to understand what lies under it.
Yeah.
That's good. It actually makes me less scared, to be honest. Like that whole movement is really, it's so scary. Like I'm waiting for my kid to come home and be like, oh, this thing, and it's so scary. But if you've taught them science and you've taught them these things, it actually feels a lot more wholesome to even the notion.
It's very simple.
Yeah, and even the notion of like, we love Larry,
Yes.
instead of like, don't speak to Larry. Larry,
run away from Larry.
That's right. It makes me more want to pursue Larry because Larry's lost, you know, rather than just like, oh gosh, Larry, I wish he wasn't at your school. It's giving me confidence. So thank you, Patricia.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which, Slomi, let's just move down to point 5 because we're talking about confidence.
Okay, cool. We'll skip the pornography one. Yeah. So speaking on
pornography is probably a whole different topic.
Yes.
Patricia, look, I know maybe it's too early because I don't know if you've had a great time, but we're happy to have you back regularly, okay? So we can park pornography and we can come back.
We can do it. There's so much, really. I mean, I'm looking at your notes and we're thinking we are skipping points.
Yeah.
And, pornography is a whole issue. There's so much we can talk about. Singleness. I mean, I don't know whether you've done something on singleness, but dealing with desire even.
That'd be great.
Every one of them is so important.
Of course.
But I'm glad you're spending time on gender because that's it's topical. And everyone out there will have some exposure. Even sometimes just a neighbor who's a really nice person. But, is, Larry who's Leonie or, a same-sex couple who are next door. How do you deal with that? It's about teaching love and, teaching them God's word, but saying, just because people are different, we still love them because God created them and God is a good God. But knowing the boundaries, and saying, just because we love someone doesn't mean we affirm behavior that isn't keeping in God's word.
Yeah.
Clarity.
Just on that, the gender thing again. So with all the conversation we've had, I'm feeling quite confident with this topic, I guess, because we've spoken so much about setting a great foundation for our kids. And so when I think about getting nervous about my daughter being exposed to this, if I think about, well, why would I be nervous? It's because I haven't covered these topics within our home. So do you think that if a child has really healthy discussions at home and we've done all the work where we're being proactive and reactive, are they as impressionable to this conversation or this issue of gender identity or gender fluidity if they are exposed at school, which inevitably they will be?
Okay, if you have laid the foundation, they are likely to be more resilient. However, this is so pervasive that we are acting against what we call social contagion of children being on social media, seeing influencers, everybody glorifying, pick a label, I have been in schools where I have had 10, 11-year-olds saying everybody in class has a gender label. Wow. It's just the thing to do.
Right.
And so we cannot, and again, this is a whole nother episode of parenting the gender revolution. We cannot think that just because we have laid the foundation, our child is not going to come home one day and say, Mom, Dad, I'm trans.
Wow.
Okay. It could still happen.
Okay.
And we need to be ready to deal with that. So we need to be proactive and have educated, taught them God's word, grounded them in the fact that their body is good, that science says you can't change. However, be ready for child saying, I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm trans, or I am whatever.
What does that look like, Patricia? Let's say one of our kids says that.
30-second answer.
Oh, you can do
30-second answer. The quick answer is that if your child comes and says, I am trans or whatever, more often they'll write you a letter or even send you an email rather than talk to you, because online you can find email. Pro forma. This is how you tell your mom and dad that you are gay, you are transgender.
Wow.
It is, I'm sorry to use the word, but I have to. It is grooming our children at a very deep level. And unfortunately, this is accepted at schools, and schools could even allow the transition without telling the parents. It's happening in the States. I follow Twitter. I know all the things that are happening in America right now, but it's happening in Australia also, and everywhere else in the world. So the important thing is not to respond with fear, anxiety. How could you do this? How could you say this? You know why? Because that is exactly what the trans lobby and everyone has told them. Your parents are bigoted. They don't understand. They don't know you. They're going to tell you that you are bad, you are wrong. And you know what? Their children are being told you're going to be thrown out of home. And we have a glitter family who will love you and care for you.
Gosh.
And if your parents object to affirming you immediately, then actually we can even take you out of home and look after you. Unfortunately, children come to you with having gone through that process. So staying calm, listening, and saying, you have the upper hand because you're the parent, you know the child. So say, we know you are struggling, acknowledging the struggle and saying, but we love you. And that's the first thing we want you to know. You're struggling, we are there for you, and we will walk with you through this journey. So, in other words, turn the rhetoric they are getting from the world on its head. You are not the bigot. You are the support system.
Right.
I say your child is caught in a whirlpool and you are the rescue boat. Go in with your flotilla of support, the church, your friends, the family.
Right.
So you can't just let the child drown, but you've got to be gentle in drawing the child back.
Okay.
Complicated, but that's
it's
where you start.
It's helpful. And I guess even the conversation about Larry is helpful because let's say one of our children, someone I follow, her name's Laurie Krieg, I think, and she recently spoke about when our children have sexual, difficulties, which we're all sexually broken, sin has touched all of us, but when our children confess or experience sexual sin, whether it's same-sex attraction or the trans movement or whatever it is, they come to you with the lens of how you have responded to the world when it comes to those things. So how you have responded about Larry has already communicated to your children how you're likely to respond to anyone, including them, if they're experiencing some sort of a confusion or a difficulty. So it's just helpful that even that you're laying the foundation of like, we love people because God created people. He created them good. And so we love Larry. How much more do we love you? You're our child. We've raised you in hopefully unto the Lord. So it's just encouraging that, and it is sobering as well, because I think that we can think as Christians, we are spared to some degree from some of this, and we can live in, I guess, a little bit of willful ignorance to think, well, my neighbors are lovely, so there's not a problem with my kids going to their houses, or, well, my kids go to a Christian school, so why should I be ahead of the game? But we are all at risk of this ideology, but just the world. We live in a sinful world. And I mean, depending on where you land theologically, I think scripture is pretty clear that it's going to get worse. Things get worse. It's labor pains. Things are going to get worse. And then God has to intervene because they've gotten that bad. So it's encouraging, and then it's sobering to just think, oh, okay, let's get to work. Let's not be slothful. Let's be proactive. So
yeah, and just one thing I guess I should have said is when your child comes to you, the first thing is to say, thank you for trusting me.
Wow.
Thank you for trusting me. I know you are distressed. I'm your parent, dad and me, mom and me. We will walk with you. Even those three things, if you remember. Thank you. We're here for you. We know your distress. Recognizing that, I think, is really important in anything, whether it be porn or extramarital sex or anything. We just stay with that. It'll help.
Okay.
Good beginning.
Wonderful. Well,
That's awesome.
Guys, I've got written here 90 minutes was never going to be enough, but it's been 2.5 hours, so it clearly wasn't enough. Patricia,
we made it that long.
Patricia, thank you so much for helping us just approach this topic with truth and grace, and To everyone who's listening, I mean, we're all sexual beings, so I hope it's been helpful to anyone. But if you're a parent or you're single, married, we hope it's been helpful. And look, our run sheet is so extensive. I think we've maybe touched half of it. And
yeah,
I think that's okay, because our encouragement to listeners is talk to your spouse about this stuff. Talk to your girlfriend, talk to a sister in safety with where you feel comfortable. But these things are worth talking about, worth cultivating comfort with. So please send this to a friend or speak to a sister about it. God made us good, and we're just so thankful for your voice in this area, Patricia. Where can people find you? If they don't know of you, where can people find you or follow you or get access to more of you?
Well, my website is simple. It's my name, patriciaweerakoon.com.
Perfect.
So, you can contact me on my website. All my books are linked there. All my books are on Amazon, including my novels, which I write because I have so much spare time. And so my website is best.
Excellent.
That's the way you can contact me. Books are in Amazon.
Okay, well, we'll link that all in the show notes, and I'm confident everyone who's listened is going to be stalking you and maybe sending you a message for some personal advice.
No problem. Happy to respond slowly.
Within reason. Yeah. Thank you so much, Patricia. We really just want to honor you, and thank you for the work that you're doing, but also being willing to share it with us and bless all of us by it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and if anyone's listening, go and have sex with your husband, all right? It's important. It's good.
And talk to your kids.
Talk to your kids. Not at the same time. They're separate things, but go.
Well, it's a teaching moment.
Thanks, Patricia. Bye.
You're welcome. God bless.